Football is back. For the 2023-2024 season, I'm going to be picking a winner for all 272 regular season games, as well as every postseason game. And as this is the inaugural video on the channel, I'll quickly mention that there's simply going to be some Madden Ultimate Team gameplay in the background each week, as I don't want the NFL to copyright strike me if I were to use legit logos or game film. Also, I am not good at Madden, but feel free to tell me how bad I am in the comments anyway, because engagement never hurts. Anyway, without further ado, let's get into the Week 1 picks. The very first game of the 2023-2024 season is Lions-Chiefs. It's Thursday night. Travis Kelce has a knee injury. Chris Jones is still holding out. And I don't think it matters. As good as the Lions were trending at the end of last season, Patrick Mahomes is still Patrick Mahomes. I think the Chiefs are going to win this. Probably a game where the Lions could get a lead or maybe hang around late, but pick the better quarterback. I think Patrick Mahomes leads the Chiefs to a victory. Another game with a star player injury, Bengals-Browns. Not only has Joe Burrow been injured, apparently he's trending in the right direction. I think he'll probably play, but he's not played against the Browns very well in the past. I feel like if he's going to play, I think this is the year he bucks that trend and they beat the Browns. It's contingent on Joe Burrow playing. I'm going to bet he's going to play, and I think the Bengals end up pulling this one off. If it were Week 3, Week 4, I may feel different, but Week 1, I don't think the Browns are going to be as ready as the Bengals will be, especially coming off an AFC Championship game loss. I think they'll be motivated. I think they come back and beat the Browns. Texans-Ravens, is there very much to say? The Ravens always come out Week 1 and play really well, especially under John Harbaugh. I think Lamar Jackson's going to play well, coming off the big contract he got. Fresh, uninjured, healthy, and the Texans are the Texans. Maybe DeMeco Ryans is going to make that team good. CJ Stroud, we'll see. Ohio State quarterbacks don't exactly have a good track record in the NFL, but I feel like if there is an Ohio State quarterback to maybe buck that trend, it may be CJ Stroud. But Week 1, against that Ravens defense, I don't think it's going to be particularly close. Ravens win this one. Moving to Buccaneers-Vikings. Buccaneers have had some QB shuffling now. They've got Baker Mayfield at the helm. Vikings, coming off one of the more bizarre seasons, that 13-3, I think they were like 11-1 or something like that in close games. They're not going to be able to win close games like that again at that kind of clip, but I do think they win this one. I think Baker Mayfield in a new system. I don't know that Todd Bowles has had a really good track record other than with Tom Brady, and even that wasn't great. So I think the Vikings win this fairly comfortably, but if the Buccaneers defense can play well, it may end up close, and who knows, maybe the Vikings start again with a fourth quarter comeback. I think they're going to win it. I could see it being sneaky close, though. Now to the other top 2 quarterback pick. We have Panthers-Falcons, Bryce Young. I think maybe he'll do okay in the NFL. I don't see him becoming a superstar quarterback. Maybe he'll prove me wrong. I think that would be great if he does. I like what the Falcons have done this offseason. Still not sure about Desmond Ridder. I love the Bijan Robinson pick. I think Tyler Algier is good. Cordero Patterson as your third running back is not a bad deal. Lots of free agent pickups. We've got Drake London, maybe coming back, year 2 doing a little bit better. Kyle Pitts could be on a motivational tear this year to try to get a second contract. I would like to see the Falcons really dominate in this game. I expect it to be close because Arthur Smith is coaching. They're probably going to run a lot, but I think they'll win. Now, Cardinals-Commanders could be an interesting game. I was thinking about making a part of this series throughout the year, doing a survivor pool. I don't think I'm going to do that because once we're out, it would be really difficult if we do end up out early. So I'm going to skip that for this year, maybe next year. But the Commanders are a very popular survivor pool pick, as the Cardinals are expected to be pretty bad this year. I think with Dan Snyder being removed from the picture in Washington, the Commanders are actually going to come out pretty fast. We'll see what Sam Howell turns into. Ron Rivera's done a pretty good coaching job there considering the situation. And at this stage, I don't think the Cardinals actually have a named starting quarterback. Last I saw in the depth chart, both quarterbacks, Josh Dobbs and is it Tune, the 5th round pick, are both listed as QB1. So I'm not expecting the Cardinals to do very much this year, especially not in Week 1. I think the Commanders get the win, but it does depend on exactly what we're looking at with Sam Howell. He looked okay at the end of last year. I think with Ron Rivera there, they're going to get it. Jags at Colts, the last of the top 5 quarterback picks this year. We've got Anthony Richardson in his home opener. As the Colts starting quarterback. Unfortunately, I don't think he's going to get the win. It will be interesting to watch him play. I expect a lot of broken play stuff, probably some wow factor, but also probably some mistakes. He's a very raw talent, and I do think he's got some potential in the NFL. The Jags looked good last year. I think Doug Peterson's going to have him ready, even as the away game there. The Colts have had a hard time in Jacksonville. I think, unfortunately, this year they're going to have a hard time at home against Jacksonville. And we've finally come to the one game that I've spent the most time deliberating over for Week 1, 49ers at Steelers. And it's not that I've been going back and forth. I've had my pick in my head for months, and I wasn't sure if I had the confidence to do it. In the last couple of days, I've seen some analyst picks for this game, and I'm not alone in this. I'm going with the Steelers for Week 1. Call me a homer if you must, but I really like what the Steelers have done this offseason. They looked really good in preseason. I know preseason doesn't mean anything, but you gotta like what you've seen from Kenny Pickett if you're a Steelers fan. The signings this offseason, I love pretty much every move they made, from Isaac Seumalo to Allen Robinson, Cole Holcomb, Landon Roberts, Quan Alexander. They just picked up Desmond King. I really like what they're doing. I think the reason they're doing this is they see good things in Kenny Pickett and they're going for it. The uncertainty with Nick Bosa, we have seen the Steelers play well against the 49ers in the past. The last time they played, Jimmy Garoppolo was there. They had like 5 turnovers. They had a really good answer to that potent 49ers run game. They still lost the game. Ben Roethlisberger was a shell of himself. That offense couldn't do anything. I think this offense looks better against this 49ers defense, and the Steelers get the win. Now on to the last of the 1 o'clock games for Week 1, Titans at Saints. I expect in this game the Titans to be the Titans and just win an ugly game, because that is pretty much what they do. I think with Alvin Kamara's suspension, Derek Carr in a new system, as much as he probably has a lot to prove down there in New Orleans, I don't think they're going to be ready for the Titans. As much as that roster has like 3 players that the average fan can name, I think Mike Vrabel coaches them up. I think they win the game. Close game, probably a little bit of back and forth, but in the end, I think Derrick Henry, Ryan Tannehill back at the helm in Tennessee, I think that's enough to get them over the hump. Speaking of Derek Carr, his former team, the Raiders, are taking on the Broncos in Denver, and this is just a Sean Payton thing. As bad as Russell Wilson and the Broncos looked last year, I think Sean Payton is enough to lift that team. I don't know if they're going to make the playoffs. I don't know if they're going to be above 500. I expect them to hover around 500, maybe 9-10 wins, but I expect them to look considerably better and definitely good enough to beat the Raiders. Jimmy Garoppolo coming to Las Vegas, I think that might be a decent fit for the Josh McDaniels system, but I don't think it's going to be enough to beat the Sean Payton-led Broncos. I think Russell Wilson is going to look considerably better. I think Javonte Williams is going to play a big role, and despite the Broncos' injuries at the receiver position, I think they get enough out of Russell Wilson to win this one. More quarterback questions. We've got Eagles at Patriots. Mac Jones looked so good in his rookie year. He got them to the playoffs. I think they were 10-6. Last year, as messed up as that system was, with Matt Patricia calling the offensive plays and Joe Judge in there, the whole thing made no sense. They've got Bill O'Brien now. The Eagles roster is too good. Maybe this is going to work. I do think Bill O'Brien is going to make Mac Jones and that entire Patriots offense look considerably better. We'll see where they end up later on this year, but for Week 1, I just don't see it. I think the Eagles probably win this one pretty comfortably. Jalen Hurts is coming back with a lot to prove after that Super Bowl loss. I don't know that this one's going to be particularly close, but Bill Belichick's the coach. It probably still will be a 1-score game at least. Halfway through the 4th, then maybe the Eagles pull away. Rams at Seahawks. Another 4:25 Eastern kickoff game. An NFC West divisional matchup in Week 1. I hate divisional games in Week 1. I get the whole ratings thing. I get both sides of the argument. In theory, everybody's healthy, so at least the teams are playing at their healthiest, but a lot of times, especially in the modern NFL with very few starters playing in preseason, Week 1, Week 2, the teams are at their best. I'd like to see divisional opponents play each other at their best because these games can mean so much. I don't think they will for the NFC West. I think the Niners win this division comfortably, and I think the Seahawks win this game maybe a little bit less comfortably. I don't see Geno Smith being as good as he was last season, but I think he's still going to be pretty decent this year. He's got so many weapons now with the addition of Jackson Smith and Jigba. I do think the Rams are going to be better than maybe people expect. Matthew Stafford coming back, Sean McVay coming back, Aaron Donald's still there. We'll see if trades end up happening with this team. They actually have their own first-round pick next year, so maybe Sean McVay is going to want to hang around and do a good coaching job this year to put them in contention. I don't see them competing for the NFC West division title. I do see Sean McVay coaching this team pretty well. I can imagine this being another close game. Week 1's so hard to tell, but I think in the end, the Seahawks just have a better roster, they have a better team at the moment, Pete Carroll's a good coach too, and I think they get this win. And speaking of games that maybe I would like to see later in the season, Dolphins at Chargers. If you guys remember this game from last year, the Chargers seemingly figured out the Dolphins offense and really had all the answers to stop that RPO attack that they were pretty much killing every team with at that time. I think the Chargers are going to win this again, but I want to see what Mike McDaniel cooks up for year 2. The biggest thing, around the time that Chargers game happened last year, that was about the time that a lot of the high-powered Dolphins offensive plays that were running and were working so well kind of started to not work so well. Teams kind of took that Chargers blueprint, maybe added some tweaks to it, and began to stop them a little bit better. I think Mike McDaniel is going to have a better kind of plan this time around for the Chargers, but it's sort of a home game for the Chargers if there's such a thing, and I think they're going to get this win. They've got a new offensive coordinator, Justin Herbert, cannot have such a shallow depth of target this year. I don't think he will, and I think they come out firing with all the receivers healthy with the addition of Quentin Johnson. I think that's just going to be too much for the Dolphins. I think this will be another close game, probably high-scoring game, especially it being week 1, but I think the Chargers get the win. And the last 4:25 Eastern kickoff. Can Jordan Love go into Chicago in his very first start for the Green Bay Packers as QB1 and get the win? Packers or Bears, I don't know who to pick here. I'm not a huge believer in Justin Fields. I hope to be proven wrong. He is really fun to watch, but I've not seen enough from his arm to make me believe he is an elite quarterback that can be the reason for wins. They've added some new pieces, obviously the trade with Carolina, that really helped in getting DJ Moore, they've got draft picks, they've got Chase Claypool from the Steelers now. I still don't think it's enough. Jordan Love has looked good when he's played, Matt LaFleur's done a heck of a job coaching there, I think it's underrated. Aaron Rodgers can be a little tough to deal with, and LaFleur did a really good job of that. I think he's going to have Jordan Love ready. I think he has a pretty good idea of how to beat the Bears to begin with, and I think they're going to pull it off. Jordan Love's first start as QB1 for the Packers, I think they get the win over the Bears, and we'll see what the Jordan Love era looks like in Green Bay. 2 Hall of Fame first ballot quarterbacks in a row. I don't think they have a third, but I think they've got a good enough one to get this win. Now on to Sunday Night Football, Cowboys at Giants, 2 NFC East teams that made the playoffs last year, not as the division winner, and 2 NFC East teams that I think are expected to perform really well again this year. Mike McCarthy is essentially calling plays for his job. I think if they don't get it done this year, he's likely going to be shown the door like Kellen Moore was. He's now there in LA with Justin Herbert and the Chargers. I think the Cowboys are going to win this game. I don't know if I would say comfortably. Divisional games are always tough. Rivalry games are always tough, but I think they're just going to out-offense the Giants. As good a job as Brian Daboll has done there in New York, keeping games close, keeping games winnable, and just finding a way at the end of the games to make those plays to get the wins. I don't think they do that here. I think the Cowboys get the win on Sunday Night Football, and I don't know if I think Mike McCarthy is going to continue doing that. We shall see, but I think week 1, especially as he's had so much time to prepare for this, he has to look good as the play caller. I think they get the lead early and probably hang on to it. And finally, perhaps the biggest matchup of week 1, another example of a divisional game in week 1 that is, I think, more so than the one in the NFC West, going to potentially have a lot to do with the division winner in the AFC East. Bills at Jets. Aaron Rodgers in New York. We've got Josh Allen coming back after an insane season for Buffalo. Damar Hamlin, that whole situation, there was the shooting in the grocery store. That team endured a lot last year, and now they get to go to New York week 1 and face Aaron Rodgers and his new team. This is another one that I've deliberated over a lot. I think I'm going to pick the Jets. The Bills looked really good in week 1 last year. They did not look good in week 1 in 2021 against the Steelers. I think it's going to be a bit of a back and forth, but it's kind of that same situation as Mike McCarthy there in New York. I think the Jets have had a lot of time to try to put a game plan together. I think they're probably going to go more all out than they should to win this game, make the acquisition of Aaron Rodgers and everything they gave up to do that worth it. They've got Dalvin Cook now. They've got all the pieces from Green Bay, from Allen Lazard to Randall Cobb. I think they're going to win the game. It's probably going to be close. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game, but I think Aaron Rodgers gets it done and really impresses in his first game in New York, and we'll see. It might be the deciding factor for the AFC East, and it's literally week 1. So just to recap, my picks for week 1, we've got the Chiefs beating the Lions, Bengals beating the Browns, Ravens over the Texans, Vikings over the Buccaneers, Falcons beating the Panthers, Commanders beating the Cardinals, Jaguars going to Indy and beating the Colts. I've got the Steelers over the 49ers, the Titans beating the Saints, the Broncos and the rejuvenated offense with Sean Payton beating the Raiders. We've got the Eagles winning over the Patriots comfortably, Seahawks beating the Rams, Chargers beating the Dolphins, Packers beating the Bears, Cowboys beating the Giants, and Aaron Rodgers getting his first win as a Jet in Week 1 against the Bills. And that is going to do it for the Week 1 picks video. What I'm going to do is type out all of the teams for the schedule in the comments. I'll pin that. You guys can copy that, paste it into your own comment, and make your picks for who you think is going to win. It can be an interactive thing throughout the year. We'll be revisiting this at the beginning of Week 2, see how we did, hopefully above 500. That's the whole experiment here. For as long as I can remember, 20 plus years, I've watched the analysts on TV make their picks throughout the year, and I've always wanted to know how well I can do. We're going to find out, making myself accountable, putting it here on YouTube, and we shall see. We'll see what the record looks like. On that note, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.